It is hard to imagine a species that lives so far in the Arctic Circle to be affected by environmental factors happening in the States, but people are proving that because of the public's everyday lives, the polar bears are in danger of becoming an endangered species. Polar bears were officially listed as a threatened species in 2008, and officials are estimating that they will become extinct by the end of the century if changes are not made to help save their habitat. Environmental factors are the main reason that the polar bear's habitat is becoming destroyed. There are a few key aspects that we will cover today that are important in helping you understand about polar bears. First, we will talk about the polar bear's habitat and where and how they normally live. Then we will talk about environmental factors that are affecting their habitat. And then we will talk about steps and precautions being taken to help save the polar bear population. Most polar bears live in the Arctic Circle and reside on sea ice. This is a map of the Arctic Circle to show you better where they live. The polar bears are great swimmers, which allow them to travel easily between different ice patches and also between land and water. Their bodies have adapted to the cold winter and also to help them live better on the thin sea ice. For example, their paws are extremely wide to help disperse their heavy body weight across the ice to keep it from breaking beneath them. They prefer to live on the ice because it gives them easy access to their favorite food, the ringed seal. Females are the only ones that hibernate, and for 3 months out of the year, they travel to land where they will give birth to their cubs in a den that they built. Because of the ice melting at such an alarming rate, the polar bears are thought to soon be left with nowhere else to live unless they can adapt and live elsewhere. It is estimated that about 20 to 25,000 polar bears are left around the world, and this is the first mammal to be in danger of extinction due to global warming. Now that we know about where and how the polar bears live, we will talk about the environmental factors that have made them a threatened species. There is great controversy over whether or not the polar bears should be a threatened species. One side of the issue does not believe that they should because their habitat is being affected by global warming, not the species itself. However, the other side of the issue, and those not involved in the politics of the situation, believe that it was necessary for them to be labeled as a threatened species before the numbers continue to drop and they officially become an endangered species. The decrease in ice has greatly affected their lifestyle because they rely on ice floats for resting, for breeding, and for hunting. Environmental factors that are affecting the polar bear population include driving cars, burning coal, and anything that causes heat to be trapped in the atmosphere, which causes the overall temperature to be warmer and the ice to melt. This is an example of a sea patch that polar bears live on. And that is a graph that shows the carbon dioxide emissions over the last 30 years and how much they have increased. Because the ice is continuing to melt, the polar bears are going to be left with nowhere to live. And this is a picture to show how much the ice has decreased since 1979. Now that we know how and where the polar bears live and what environmental factors are threatening the species, we will talk about how the governments have started taking notice and setting precautions to help try and save this population. For example, in Canada, hunters can't import the skin hides of polar bears or any other trophies obtained from killing them. Although progression may be slow, because people do not believe that the polar bears are in true danger of becoming an endangered species, steps are definitely being taken in the right direction. Because of awareness brought on by environmental groups, governments have said that precautions must be taken in every instance when regarding the polar bears. And federal agencies must reflect on their decisions and how it will affect the polar bear population. Gas and oil companies are allowed to continue in areas where polar bears live, but they must follow the strict restrictions set by the Marine and Mammal Protection Act. So in conclusion, we have learned a lot about polar bears and the reasons that they are on the threatened species list. First, we talked about the habitat, sea ice, and where and how they normally live. Then we talked about environmental factors that are destroying their habitat. And lastly, we talked about organizations that have been getting involved to persuade the government to take notice. Polar bears are a threatened species, and if the public does not become more aware, they will soon become an endangered species.